In the media, they've reported out this explosion of growth in cases and those kinds of things, which I want you to talk about, but also what you think is fueling that growth.
What we see is this generation that has just grown up with nothing but the internet and social media, right? Such a difference than generations 10, 15 years ago. And I think that the desensitization of material and where those boundaries are have really had an impact for these victims. I also think, you have our kids on there that maybe their self-esteem isn't so great, or they're having some mental health concerns, or things at home aren't good. They get on the internet and find that validation. They find their group that supports them. That's where they're getting their validation. And so sometimes it's that acceptance of saying, all right, I'll send a couple, and I'm making sure that person I have a relationship with, even though it's all online, they're still going to maintain that relationship with me.
Talk to us a little bit about, who are the offenders in these cases?
Actually, it is a little surprising that the average age for the subject is like between early 20s and mid 30s was the norm of
That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's individuals sometimes that obviously have a lot of time to be able to do this. They're very organized, like we have traditionally seen with predators and their collections that they have of CSAM. So they're very organized a lot of times. I think what's changed in the last 5 years that we're seeing too is that perpetrators will say, if I don't get something from one, I'll move on to the next because there's so much content out there online. Where historically years ago, we used to say, like, if your picture's out on the internet, you're never going to get it back. Now, unfortunately, and a sad statement to this is there's so much content out there that if kids have put things out there, a good chance it's going to get buried. It's still there. It's not necessarily going away, but it'll probably get buried with all the other thousands of images that are being shared. And that's not good either, right?
That's so interesting because on the one hand, any individual child might not have quite as many worries about it sort of living on in that way, because as you say, it'll be buried by new content. But how tragic that there's that much content to begin with.
It is. And again, I think when you talk about that vulnerability too, look at brain development for our kids. Brains don't fully develop till mid-20s. Also makes them so vulnerable to that decision making. As we know, the part of our brain that makes sound decisions, reasoning decisions, that develops last. And then the self-blame, where you get that high concern of the suicide, and how do we reach out to these kids to let them know this is not life ending. Just tell somebody, tell your parent, tell a teacher, tell whoever, right? I think that's what we're just trying to message out.